Thank you. So, this morning we welcome to our pulpit to deliver a message Zhenya Lukyunova, who is a person of Jewish heritage who was born in Siberia and came to the United States, I'm not sure when, but she served recently as a volunteer on the Polish Ukrainian border assisting refugees. Zhenya, please tell us of your experience.
Thank you very much for creating nice atmosphere, high vibrations by singing and beautiful music. Thank you very much. And thank you very much for having me here today. Probably Paul did not mention that I have an accent, so good luck with it. And yes? Oh, okay. Oh, that's much better. Okay. So I do have an accent, so please forgive me for that. And I'm grateful to Paul because today in the morning when we just were exchanging some thoughts and ideas, he brought me to the thought that in many spiritual teachings on this planet, mind is responsible for separation. Our mind, a beautiful mind, which is absolutely necessary for our everyday navigation, driving, cooking, talking, etc., etc. It's also responsible for judging, expecting, doubting, controlling, and fear. And when we act from our mind, we get separated. But in the month of April, where I happened to spend, due to recent events, and a month literally on Ukrainian-Polish border, my mind learned one thing, that if we drop our critical mode, our mode of separation, and we act from our heart, miracles can happen. So what I was witnessing there, that enormous amount of people, refugees from Poland, from Ukraine, fled to Poland, and this small town, probably fourth size of Sioux Falls, was welcoming those mass refugees. People who came, most of them came without anything, with a couple of belongings, with their children and pets. And in what was happening there is really fascinating, and it's still happening. So the Polish, first of all, it's not the strongest economy in the world, and it's also logistically and economically and politically, they were not ready for this huge amount of refugees. And people from all over the world, from the United States or from all over Europe, from New Zealand, from Australia, from Korea, from Japan, were coming to this little place on their own, at their own expenses, and spend months, weeks there to help refugees. When I came there and I was, oh, how can I help you? And they say, oh, you just find your way. And yes, it is funny, but you step into the small shopping mall, which was donated by the owner of a shopping mall, which, and the only representatives of the officials in that shopping mall was the guards, which because of the human trafficking was necessary, and firefighters, which were providing transportation, the buses from that shopping mall to the train station. That's it. Everything else was organized by on volunteer basis. People were taking 12, 14-hour shifts every day and night, depending upon their preferences and depending upon the necessity. And imagine long lines of refugees which had to be registered at the very entrance of this refugee center. Then they have to be informed about their possibilities. They have to get place to sleep. And that shopping mall, several times we had about 20, 30 people short from 1,500. It's enormous amount of people. They have to be fed. They come with children. There are amazing activities for children organized on volunteer basis by Israeli and German people. And believe it or not, some of them didn't even speak neither Ukrainian nor Russian. So children understand languages and fantastically. And sometimes when there was time for for family to move forward to one of the European countries which they chose to stay reside for time of the war, it was very hard to extract children from those activities because they were so involved, engaged, and that's thanks, of course, to volunteering efforts. Germans brought a circus which they installed outside of the shopping mall. Again, they had people, clowns and entertaining brigades rotating. Germany is pretty close from Poland. Then there were my friends from Israel and my friends from New York who belong to a global disaster relief program. There was also volunteers who provide psychological and medical help to people. They also were doing extractions, the so-called extractions, when not everybody could join the refugee trains or refugee buses in Ukraine. Some people were not mobile, in wheelchairs, etc., etc. And those people, the organization which I was volunteering for, which is called Russian for Ukrainians, we bought ambulance. And 3 people would go to Odessa, for instance, or to Nikolaev, bring those people in need to Poland, and then they would go back. Everything on volunteer basis, including the bus, was bought on donations. And many people came with pets. Guess what? There was a pet station there with food, with porters, leashes, etc., etc. Some volunteers, because some pets were not very friendly, dogs especially, so there were special volunteers who would take care of animals in case need. World Central Kitchen, I would recommend to Google that. That's the best kitchen in the world. And again, guess who was serving there? Volunteers. Guess who is the organizer? Volunteer. There was a nice guy who was serving coffee, and then he asked me once, "Oh, where are you from? Where did you learn English?" I said, "Well, I'm from Russia." First of all, it's kind of, and then, well, where do you live? I live in South Dakota. Oh, we're from South Dakota. So false. And he happened to be a retired professor from Mankato. Yes, and he did not know languages. English was the only one, so he was serving coffee, and believe me, he was a very good server. A friend of mine, my new friend, lady, registered nurse from Bozeman, Montana. She slept in the house which we were renting, in the laundry room, and she was a registered nurse with very high. When she gave me her business card, I thought, my goodness, that woman, again, she could not do anything except cleaning, and believe me, she was doing a lot of. And if you have 1,500, close to 1,500 people of refugees in one small, comparatively small shopping mall, there is a lot of cleaning. to do, and every single thing was based on volunteering basis. Then there were people who were so the French bought and assembled showers. Guess who was cleaning those showers? And there is a lot of tension sometimes in the where so many people are. So we had social workers from Israel, and the amount of then there was a line of tables, representatives from Spain, Portugal, Italy, France, Netherlands, Belgium, Austria, Ireland, Great Britain, Finland, Denmark, Norway, Sweden, Germany, and even Switzerland. And you know, Switzerland never ever accepted any refugees in their history. So all those tables, all their booths were operated based on completely volunteer basis, including the buses. The governments were involved only when the people had to get the status when they arrived to the country. Every other single thing was arranged and ruled by volunteers on volunteer basis. There was coordinator, 2 coordinators for each shift, night and morning. One woman, I belong to her team. It so happened to be there, to be so, and I suspected from her accent that she was not Polish. And surely enough, she was, or she is, Karina. She's from Denmark, and she used to serve as CEO of some companies. So she does have experience of organizing or management. So she was completely on volunteer basis. She was the volunteer coordinator. During the daytime, and the businessman who had his small business in one of the Polish cities, he was the nighttime coordinator, completely on volunteer basis. And another interesting thing was that, you know, people, you had close to 1,000 people coming, because people would come. They will spend night or two in this shopping mall, in this refugee center, and they would move forward. And most of the people are by themselves. They were capable of making their decisions. They were capable of managing the situations with some help or without help. But there was the special cases, like you mentioned. There was a woman who can't walk make several steps by her own, or there were people in a wheelchair spending 30-35 days in the basements in Mariupol, or if you heard there was a bombing of the rail station in Kramatorsk, and surely enough those people were like 15-20 hours later they were in our center, and with psychological disturbance, and some people came without documents. Some people never ever even applied for their so-called international passports. So they didn't have that happened so rapidly. Not everyone can handle that. Not everyone can comprehend it. And those cases, we call them cases. Then when you have to have individual approach. And that is interesting feeling. One of my new friends from New Jersey, we were driving back from one of the shifts, and he was like, do you understand, like, how do you feel about that every day we try to make people, we affect people's lives by telling them, advising them, taking care of them, but we kind of shape their lives, and that's a lot of responsibility. Tell you the truth, but and I would say that not a single case which we were dealing with was not resolved in this or that successful, I would weigh again, it's at mind level. And the only explanation which my mind can prompt me how this enormous social structure, or normal probably social structure was operating. It's from the compassion which people from all over the world brought to the place, and they were focusing on bringing love, light, peace and healing into that little square footage of that small shopping center in the middle of nowhere. And I mentioned at the very beginning that about judgmental control, fears, doubts and expectations. And what I also been noticing is that the volunteers I was dealing with, they literally dropped that thing. Interesting case, you call it case perhaps. I got a message, Facebook, which I did not like before that, but now I'm a big fan because that is very organizing environment. And I got a message from a guy from California that someone from he knew were coming to the border. It's mom with autistic child, about this size, I don't know, maybe 10, 11, 13 years old, and grandmother. So finally, they arrived to the place, to Tesco, to the shopping center, and you know, when I look at them, I understand that these people are so exhausted, so empty, except the child. Child was like fully charged, and he was running around, and mom, of course, was worried about him. And at some moment, at the very bottom, she grabbed his hair and shut up, something. And there were several people around them, and immediately, it just immensely, what do we do? One would take care of the child, another would take mom to just for a walk and talk. Another one was trying to find a nice place for them to spend the night, because obviously 1,000 people, the shopping mall is not appropriate place for the autistic child, fully charged. And afterwards, when we were driving home and discussing that, not a single person, neither judged, not people who came there for help. They came here for help, we helped them without anything involved. And what happens when so many people were gathered or drawn by something inside them, which let's call compassion or compassionate action, even better. Something happens, I believe you're familiar with the word synchronicities, which everything, you know, everybody experiences, especially if you're in a high level of creativity, that everything happens like right on time, right place, with right people, with right intention. Yeah, one of the ways to put it. And there are so many synchronicities happening. One of and so many people were reporting that, oh, how did that happen? We didn't expect it, because our mind tries to solve the problems. There was a couple of people, older woman and her daughter, came to my table. I was at the information bureau, and she thought, you know, we are from Kiev. We spent almost a month in the subway station, and finally we decided to come to Poland. And I'm dreaming about a place in a small hotel where I could work and my mom could just enjoy the place. And my mind started working. It's not going to happen, because Poland is was overflowed with refugees. So I started thinking, oh, maybe Finland or Denmark, something like that. A guy from Lithuania came up to us right in that place, sat down and said, you know, just in case you have a girl or mom with a child, there is an opening in the one of the resorts in the, don't laugh at this, I mean, you can laugh because it is funny. It is at some sort. It's just a miracle probably, and so the opening, and they would even drive to pick them up, and those two people were sitting right in front of me and said, "Oh, things happen," and they went right to their place, and to show you. I mean, to give you some numbers, when I came there and up to the third week of April, the ratio between Russian or Ukrainian speaking interpreter person was 1 to 3,000 refugees. Can you believe the chances that things could, like, and there are numerous things like that. There was I believe it was Easter, it was Sunday for sure, and I believe it was either Catholic or Orthodox Easter, so it was low on volunteers. And there was about mid-70s guy came up to my information desk and gave me the phone. The phone, by the way, were provided by three companies, Polish companies. They were giving 3 gigabytes and Polish numbers, phone numbers for refugees. And some people, if they did have phones, they would provide a used one. And he'll, you have to talk to my daughter because I have to be there tonight by midnight, at least in Wrocław. It's not in Wrocław, it's a couple of hours before Wrocław. And so please talk to her and tell her where I am, how I am gonna get there. And it was 6 o'clock, 6 p.m. I know that the last train is at 6:43. And the last bus to the station already left. So I talked to his daughter, and she explained me that she has transportation to pick her dad from the train station only this particular evening. Otherwise, he had to wait until Wednesday or Thursday because. And she said, please do something. I said, well, try. If not, we'll find a place for him to sleep. And I told this guy, so sit here, watch my computer. I will be back somehow. So we'll try to, if I can solve it, I can. And it's interesting, it's interesting state of flow. So I got up and I see a man entering the building. And he looked like some kind of lost or something. So I came up to him and said, sir, I noticed you just came in the building, and is there anything I can help you with? And oh, yeah, I am from British team, and I'm a driver, and I don't have anything to do. So I just walked in and asked if there's anybody needs to be driven anywhere. I said, oh yeah, I have a gentleman right there. He needs to be at the train station, and he has to have a ticket to Wrocław, and he has to be there. And so, oh sure, I'll take him. I checked if he has the registered drivers have to have green bands on them. He did have one. And I thought, oh okay, so bring him. And he said, oh wait a second, why did you come up to me? I said, I don't know. And he said, it happened to me so often. Like I would show up at Medica, which is the border, or somewhere else as a member of that British team, and things happen to me. Like I would be in the right place, the right time, with right intention, with the right people, and I thought, well, things happen like that. So in about an hour later, he showed up again. She said, oh yeah, I bought the ticket for that elderly guy. I put him on the train, and believe me, to recognize to get the right carriage on Polish train is a challenge, especially for the foreigners. So he put him there, and I learned 2 words from him. One is do vidania, which is goodbye, And another is, I said, what is thank you for Ukrainian? I think, the dziękuję. I said, no, it's something else. It's спасибо. That means thank you. So I learned 2 words. And I want to finish my short presentation with the word thank you very much for being here, for listening for giving me opportunity to share this experience, and with the hope that social structures which are organized by people from their heart-to-heart communication is possible in this world. So we have hope, and thank you very much, and до видания.